I completely disagree with the idea of it being a Sydney split based on everyone else, because that, as you say, the kind of the undertakings are completely different, aren't they? But if it was split just down the middle in terms of numbers, and if your trips to North Queensland was split with another team having to go to New Zealand when that's kind of back up and running, do you know what I mean? That kind of thing. You need to think about that kind of.
You'd probably have the Storm and the Warriors in one conference and the Titans in the Cowboys in the other, sort of thing.
Possibly, yeah.
There'd be an idea. One final bit of feedback after last week's show, a really positive one from Dr. Hideous about wheelchair rugby league, which we mentioned about the return of all the disability rugby leagues, kind of building up over the next few weeks. Dave said, brilliant news that the wheelchair rugby league is restarting. I watched a few internationals and Challenge Cup games in 2019 and thought it was the most exciting variation on the theme of rugby that I've seen. And it's probably our best chance of winning a World Cup this autumn. So
we will see.
I added that last bit in, by the way, but that's my biggest excitement about it. I want to see us win at least one of the three, Alan. At least one of the three. Okay, that's the very long opening section this week, but hopefully we've covered everything fairly there. We're now going to move into news from around the world of rugby league.
Okay, so we move on to news this week, and what was, as Mark said previously, the big news. Super League has agreed a new television rights deal with existing holder Sky Sports until the end of the 2023 season. Sky will show 66 live games per season, including the Magic Weekend, playoffs and the Showpiece Grand Final. The new deal gives the broadcaster first pick of games during the regular season as well as playoffs. The agreement will see Sky, who've held the television rights to the competition since it started in '96, extend their partnership to 28 years. Part of the new deal will also see Sky make some of this season's fixtures available via the broadcaster's free-to-air platforms.
Mark Snide's Forgotten Right Foot said, good to see Rugby League continue the deal with Sky, but as someone who doesn't have a Sky subscription, fingers crossed our league has an option for pay-per-view, which I'm sure would take off, allowing for extra funds to the RFL and Super League. Personally, I don't think it'll affect attendances. Nothing beats the live experience, nor can it compare to watching your team live. The Sportsman or BBC would also be a great reach to a wider market. I think the Sportsman would depend on if the Sports Association with Betfred continues. But yeah.
Tom Andrews says, good points. It's another 2 years of quality coverage, possibility of streaming membership and BBC games. Bad points. Big money dip, 2 more years of Phil Clark. Overall, decent-ish result.
And Bruiser664 said, it's good to hear from Bruiser. It's been a while. He says, the new Sky agreement will see Sky Sports have the first pick of games in each of the regular season rounds as well as the first pick of games in each of the playoff weeks. Am I reading too much into the phrase first pick of games? Could we see Super League on other platforms? I think that was the biggest takeaway for me from this. I don't know about you, Alan. There's a chance for a secondary deal, and while Sky will get exclusivity on the games that they choose to show, the other 4 games a week will be up for grabs in some other form of broadcasting, it seems like. I don't think Super League are pushing for a get them all on telly version, but maybe more like a pay for your R-League subscription version. But yeah, there's scope there, isn't there, now?
Yeah, it feels like there was like another part of this announcement that we're waiting for, doesn't it?
Yeah.
In terms of what's happening with free-to-air or streaming or that kind of thing. Obviously, we've had an enforced kind of test of this model, haven't we? And I know it's only for the Championship at the moment, so that doesn't necessarily tell you how big it would be for Super League. But the RFL particularly will have an idea now about what kind of income they can expect, because they've had a few rounds. They kind of know who's buying tickets, who's not. They'll have a sense of the market, won't they? Because it's very difficult to kind of to take a stab in the dark and say, well, we're going to go streaming first type approach, because you have no idea what kind of income you're likely to get. I mean, as a general news story, it feels like it's been seeded for months. This, it's been like one of the worst kept secrets, hasn't it?
Seems like the Super League club owners and stuff knew about it in March, and it's taken a month for it to hit the open media, which actually is positive that no one leaked the full details of it. Although, I think the sense is that it's around 26 million pounds a year rather than the 40 million pounds a year it used to be, which is a disappointment. 66 games seems to be slightly fewer than we've been getting, but I think the extra on top of what we were getting was Catalan games that weren't necessarily planned in the original deal 6 years ago, and also these extra games we've got the last 2 years where they've shown all games because Sky's needed stuff to show people when they've been sat inside paying for a subscription because they can't go to games.
Yeah, I mean, that's looking like an average of 2 games around, isn't it?
Which is
possibly 3.
What the original intention of the previous deal was.
Yeah, I mean, looking at this from a outside of Super League perspective, I think we've been, the writing's been on the wall, hasn't it, in terms of funding for clubs outside of Super League for quite a while now. And that's been part of the kind of the briefing I've seen, that everyone's seen about it. So it feels to me like there's always been a potential to look at free-to-air stuff for the Championship, as well as the kind of combination with streaming. Because it has a more geographical spread, you're more likely to get somebody who's more interested in that at a what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of like a niche model. Do you know what I mean? It's not going to be mass market. We know that.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of negatives, isn't there, from this deal? But the one big positive is that the Championship is no longer tied in. So there is an opportunity for Championship. They're going to not get the money. They're not going to get basically money for nothing, which is what they have been getting. But they're going to get an opportunity to go and see what that league can do.
Yeah, exactly. And if I've always thought that they've kind of slightly missed a trick from the RFL's point of view in not tying the Challenge Cup in, because obviously they have the rights to sell that to BBC or whoever, to tie those things in together as a package in terms of talking to the BBC regionally, just as they do in Yorkshire and the North generally, to say, well, how are North Wales and West Wales being reflected in Welsh TV coverage, for example? Do you know that kind of
and it'd
thing
probably be the 1 or 2 camera streaming setup, wouldn't it, for those games to be on free to air? No one should be expecting them to be on BBC One at 5 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, but on the BBC Online service every week to have a game would be fantastic.
Exactly, that's what I mean. Or Channel 4 have got a new home in the north. It might be something that they might look to do. That they're historically have links with niche sports.
Well, it'd be fantastic if Channel 4 could even potentially be who picks up this other package that the Super League are trying to sell, which is the highlights and I think 10 or 12 live games for a season package. I mean, one game every 2 weeks on live on Channel 4 with a revamped Super League show. That wouldn't be something to look down on at all, would it?
I do think that in the longer term, the Sky deal is going to be part of a broader approach to broadcasting, which will include streaming. Hopefully, will include free-to-air access as well. Ties up with things like the Sportsman and stuff like that. That's going to, it's things like that where you're going to be able to see a breadth of viewing of matches. Because you and I have had no chance to watch 4 games this weekend, have we?
No.
From the Super League, which is bonkers, really.
Because we could watch all Championship matches if we wanted.
Yeah, to. Yeah. If I felt the need to, if I had £10 in my pocket, I should be able been able to pay for one of those games. And it feels like it's obviously rights holding that has stopped us doing that.
And I think most people wouldn't have minded tuning into Huddersfield versus Leeds on Sunday afternoon.
When there's nothing else kind of on, rugby league based. No, exactly.
Waiting for a pitch invasion at Old Trafford. But, yeah, and I think, look, overall, there's a big negative here. There's a big negative that the money's less and the term of the deal is only 2 years. We have to emphasise, they are problems that the sport needs to come up with solutions around. But the one thing we have here is an opportunity to come up with solutions, which under the old deal we had no opportunity to do anything else whatsoever, as we're seeing right now with those 4 other games not being able to be shown on television.
Yeah, diversifying the offering is the way forward. That's the only method, because at the moment it does feel like we kind of went to Sky very much the junior partner in the negotiation, because we had nothing else to offer. And
no one else wanting us, let's be honest.
And that's the problem. That's the problem that you've got. That's why we've got less money. I'm paying more for Sky this year than I was last year. So where's that money going? It's not going to rugby league. It's going elsewhere. And this is all about the power of broadcasters versus us as a sport. And our only way of addressing that is to diversify our kind of offering.
And show that there's an audience. Show broadcasters that there's an audience there waiting to be tapped into, but we have to do it ourselves because they're not going to do it for us.
Exactly. Yeah.
Let's move on. Paul Anderson has selected 27 players to his England night squad who will join the monthly senior squad sessions run by England coach Sean Wayne. God, they'll have like 2 full games going on with this amount of players. New to the squad are Hull's Joe Cater and Jordan Lane. Leeds is Alex Mellor and Castleford's Jax O'Neills. The RFA say discussions about fixtures for the feeder teams are ongoing, i.e. which World Cup team will they be a pre-tournament warm-up for, I think. The squad is Matty Ashton and Rob Butler of Warrington, Tom Davies of Catalans, Matty English of Huddersfield, Joe Cater of Hull, Ethan Havard of Wigan, Jordan Lane of Hull, George Lawler of Hull KR, Matty Leeds of St Helens and Cruz Leeming of Leeds, Darnell McIntosh from Huddersfield, Liam Marshall from Wigan, Alex Mellor, Mikoledski, both from Leeds, Jax O'Neill from Cass, Ollie Partington from Wigan, Danny Richardson from Cass, Aaron Smith from St Helens. That's an interesting one. He's not deemed good enough to get into their match day 17 at the moment. Cam Smith from Leeds, Harry Smith and Morgan Smithies from Wigan, Jake Truman from Cass, Danny Walker from Warrington, Jake Wardle from Huddersfield, Jack Wellesby from St Helens, Matt Whitley from Catalans, and Oliver Wilson from Huddersfield. We had a fan viewing on this one.
Yes, always in our shadow says, obviously the M62 doesn't get as far as Hull when considering players for rep teams. Well, it kind of did. Charlie Crooks, Kip Abdul and Griffin are all worthy of consideration. As injuries don't matter, look at the senior team. Shaw should be there. Swift, Bowden also worth a shout.
I think this team is, in the most part, deliberately gone away from people in their second half of their 20s, and Jamie Shaw would be in that group. Griffin's in the senior squad. The other Griffin, he means, does he? Who's at Cass now, I guess he must mean.
Maybe.
So I think Bowden, Swift, Abdul, Shaw are probably ruled out on the age side of things. I think, although there are some people in the mid-20s and up, aren't there, in that group? It's not like there's none of them. But yeah, it should be seen as more as a development squad, so I wouldn't be expecting... I don't think Cruz Leeming, Liam Marshall, maybe even Danny Richardson should be in that group, to me. And Mikoledski should be in the proper squad like he sort of was the other week.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a reason that they're basically linking with the senior squad. I think you can almost view them as interchangeable based on form in the league and abilities just generally. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw some kind of element of migration between the two squads. I wouldn't say it's
a big opportunity for these players as well if they're going to be facing off against the senior like front runners in training sessions. If